Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Western Flavors. Before we get into our new episode, let's recap the dramatic events from our last story. The episode began with Ty, Tim, and Shane, fugitives on the run, making a desperate decision to approach their oldest rival, Val Stanton, for help. In a tense clandestine meeting, Ty successfully convinced Val that Nathan Price was a mutual threat to the entire valley. In a stunning turn of events, Val agreed to a strategic alliance, providing the team with a secret base of operations, untraceable funds, and their very first piece of critical intelligence, the complete file on a compromised Price security guard named Marcus Thorne. If you're enjoying this new season, please take a second to hit that like button and be sure to subscribe so you never miss a chapter. Now today, the newly formed resistance must plan its first dangerous move in their secret war against Nathan Price. The line shack had become their war room. The air inside was thick with the smell of stale coffee, wood smoke, and a new palpable tension. The single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling cast a harsh yellow light on the faces of the three men gathered around the rickety table. In the center of the table, the screen of a laptop glowed, illuminating the face of their target. Marcus Thorne, age 28, security guard for Price Industries, and according to the detailed file provided by Val Stanton, a man with a gambling problem so severe it was about to swallow his entire life. Ty stared at the man's photograph, his expression a mask of cold, analytical focus. He saw not a person, but a key. The first potential crack in Nathan Price's seemingly impenetrable wall.
The file says he plays in a high-stakes, illegal poker game every Tuesday night at a roadhouse called the Flatlander, just off the highway. It's his one vice, and according to his financials, it's where he's most vulnerable.
He looked up, first at Tim, then at Shane.
I go in, alone. I establish a cover as a player with money to burn. I'll use the cash Val gave us as a buy-in. I wait for the right moment, a moment when he's desperate, and I make contact.
Tim, who had been simmering with a silent, frustrated energy, finally exploded. He shot up from his chair, his movement a sudden, violent disruption of the room's tense quiet.
Are you insane?
He began to pace the small, confined space, his boots thudding a heavy, angry rhythm on the old floorboards.
You are the most wanted man in this entire country, and you want to waltz into a bar full of lowlifes and criminals and play cards? It's a suicide mission, Ty. They will recognize you in a second. One person makes a phone call, and we'll have the entire RCMP tactical squad kicking down the door.
Shane, ever the loyal backup, chimed in, his voice a note of caution. He's right, Ty. It's too exposed. Let me go in with you. Or at least let me be in the bar. I can watch your back. Ty listened to their objections, his own expression unchanging. He had already played this argument out in his own mind 100 times.
And what happens when someone recognizes you, Tim? Or when they see the two of us walking in together? In a place like that, two strangers walking in as a team looks like a setup. It looks like trouble. It has to be one person. A lone wolf. Someone who doesn't draw any extra attention.
He turned his gaze to Shane.
I need you on the outside, in the truck. You'll be my eyes and ears. I'll have an earpiece. You'll be my overwatch. That's the most important job.
He then looked back at Tim, his voice softening slightly, but his resolve as hard as steel.
This is what the Ghost Protocol is about. It's not about hiding in a shack, waiting for Nathan to make a move. It's about taking calculated risks. It's about going to the places he would never expect us to be. In a place like the Flatlander, nobody is looking at faces. They're looking at the cards in their hands and the money on the table. Greed makes people blind. It's the best cover we could possibly ask for.
His logic was sound, his reasoning cold and clear. He was no longer the reactive, emotional man who had been a prisoner of Nathan's game. He was a strategist. He was a commander. Tim stopped his pacing, a look of a grudging and worried acceptance on his face. He hated it, every part of it. But he could not argue with the undeniable truth in Ty's words.
Fine, but if this goes sideways, if you are not out of there in 2 hours, we are coming in after you. I don't care what the plan is.
It won't come to that.
The debate was over. The mission was a go. They spent the next hour making their preparations. They created a believable backstory for Ty's cover identity. A pipeline worker from out of province, flush with cash and a taste for high-stakes poker. They synchronized their burner phones and tested the small, nearly invisible earpiece that would be Ty's only link to the outside world. The part ended as Ty stood before a small, cracked piece of a mirror he had propped up against the wall. He put on a worn, dirty work jacket over a faded t-shirt and pulled a greasy, nondescript baseball cap low over his eyes. He looked at his own reflection, but the man staring back was not Ty Borden. The eyes were harder, colder. The expression was a mask of a weary and dangerous indifference. He was shedding the last of his old self, becoming the anonymous gambler he needed to be. The first offensive move in their secret war was about to begin, and it was a move that could either be their salvation or their end. The Flatlander was a squat, ugly building hunched by the side of a lonely stretch of highway, a festering sore on the face of the otherwise beautiful foothills. A collection of rusty pickup trucks and a few mean-looking motorcycles were scattered across the gravel parking lot like sleeping, metal beasts. It was the kind of place that decent people drove past a little faster, a place that thrived in the shadows, forgotten and ignored. It was the perfect hunting ground. Shane was parked a quarter of a mile down the road, his position in the old work truck giving him a clear but distant view of the roadhouse entrance. He watched through a pair of high-powered binoculars, his own heart a nervous, thrumming drum against his ribs. He was the overwatch, the lifeline, and he had never felt so useless. A small, almost invisible earpiece was nestled in his ear, the only connection to the man who was about to walk into the lion's den. "Okay, I'm in position. I can see the front and back doors. How are you doing?" The voice that came back was a low, calm whisper, distorted by static.
"I'm good. Going dark. Talk to you when I'm inside."
Ty cut the connection. He sat for a moment in the passenger seat of their own truck, parked in the deepest shadows at the edge of the lot. He pulled the brim of the greasy baseball cap lower, took a deep, steadying breath, and got out. He was no longer Ty Borden, he was Mike, the pipeline worker, a man with a pocket full of cash and a thirst for a game. He walked towards the bar, his stride even, his shoulders relaxed, a perfect performance of a man who belonged in a place like this. The inside of the Flatlander was a chaotic assault on the senses. The air was thick with the smell of stale beer, fried onions, and cheap cigar smoke. A jukebox in the corner was blasting a loud, angry country song, and the main room was a cacophony of loud laughter, shouted conversations, and the sharp crack of a cue ball breaking a set of pool balls. Ty moved through the crowd, his eyes scanning, taking in every detail. He was invisible here, just another rough-looking guy in a dirty jacket. He made his way to the bar and flagged down the bartender, a large bald man with a sour expression and a faded tattoo of a snake on his forearm.
"Whiskey."
The bartender grunted, splashing a measure of amber liquid into a smudged glass and sliding it across the bar. Ty paid with a 20, letting the man see the thick roll of cash he pulled from his pocket.
"Heard there might be a game tonight. For a man with a little extra to spend."
The bartender's eyes flicked from the cash to Ty's face and back again. He was sizing him up, his gaze a silent, professional assessment. After a long moment, he gave a single, almost imperceptible nod towards a heavy, unmarked door at the back of the room behind the pool tables. 500 to buy in. You lose it all, you get up and walk away. You cause any trouble, you get carried out. Clear?
"Clear."
Ty picked up his drink, took a small sip, and walked towards the back room. His heart was pounding, but his face was a mask of a calm and bored indifference. He knocked once on the heavy door, a small slot slid open, and a pair of hard, suspicious eyes peered out. Ty held up the roll of cash. The slot slammed shut, and a moment later, the sound of a heavy bolt being drawn back echoed in the hallway. The door creaked open. He stepped inside, and the door boomed shut behind him, the sound of the bolt sliding home a sound of absolute finality. He was in. The room was a small, windowless, smoke-filled den. A single low-hanging, green-shaded lamp hung over a large, round poker table, casting a pool of harsh light on the worn felt surface and the faces of the men who sat around it. There were 5 of them, their expressions unreadable, their eyes hidden in the shadows cast by the lamp. The only sounds were the soft, rhythmic riffle of a deck of cards and the sharp, confident clack of poker chips. Ty took the one empty seat, nodding to the game runner, a man with cold, dead eyes, who simply gestured to the chips. Ty counted out $500 from his roll and pushed it into the center. He received his stack of chips and began to play, and he began to watch. His eyes, hidden under the brim of his cap, scanned the faces at the table, and then he saw him, across the table to his left. Marcus Thorne. He looked exactly like his file photo, only worse. His face was pale, a sheen of sweat on his brow. His eyes darted nervously from his cards to the growing pile of chips in the center of the table. He was playing with a reckless, frantic energy, the unmistakable style of a man who was not playing to win, but was chasing a catastrophic loss. Ty settled in. He folded the first hand, and the second. He was not here to play poker, he was here to hunt, and he had his prey in his sights. All he had to do now was wait for the perfect moment to spring the trap. An hour crawled by in a thick haze of cigar smoke and unspoken desperation. Ty played his part to perfection. He was a ghost at the table, a man who seemed more interested in his whiskey than his cards. He won a few small pots, lost a few others, his stack of chips remaining more or less the same. His quiet, unassuming presence made him invisible, just another piece of the room's grimy furniture. His focus was absolute, not on the cards but on the man to his left. Marcus Thorne was falling apart. The reckless energy he had started with had curdled into a sweaty, panicked despair. He was chasing his losses, a fatal mistake in a game like this. He bet wildly, his hands trembling as he pushed his dwindling chips into the pot, his eyes wide with a desperate, almost childlike hope that the next card would be his savior. It never was. The other players at the table, sharks who could smell blood in the water, were circling. They raised his bets, they re-raised, they bled him dry with a cold, professional efficiency. Finally, the moment came. Marcus had nothing left but a small stack of IOUs owed to the house. It was the final hand of the night. The game runner, a man with cold, dead eyes named Sal, dealt the cards. Marcus looked at his hand, and for the first time all night, a flicker of genuine hope ignited in his tired eyes. He had a good hand, a life-saving hand. He went all in, pushing his last marker into the pot. All in. Sal, who was also playing, just gave a small, cruel smile and called, laying his own cards down. It was a better hand. It was always a better hand. The hope in Marcus's eyes died, replaced by a look of pure, hollowed-out horror. It was over. He was completely and utterly wiped out. The game broke up. The other players cashed out, their voices a low, satisfied murmur as they counted their winnings. Marcus remained at the table, a statue of a man, staring at the empty space where his money and his future used to be. Sal walked over and stood behind him, placing a heavy, possessive hand on his shoulder. "You know the rules, Marcus. The house extends credit for one night. I expect my money plus the interest by noon tomorrow, or we're gonna have a problem. A big one." The threat was quiet, conversational, and all the more terrifying for it. "I'll get it, Sal. I swear, I just need a little more time. You have until noon." Sal squeezed his shoulder, a final painful reminder of who was in control, and then walked away. Marcus sat there for a long moment, a man who had just been handed a death sentence. Finally, he rose from the table, his movements stiff and slow, the walk of a man heading to his own execution. This was the moment. Ty cashed out his own chips, taking a small loss for the night, and moved toward the door, timing his exit to fall in step just behind Marcus. They stepped out of the stuffy, smoke-filled back room and into the main bar.
Tough night.
The words were quiet, a simple statement of fact. Marcus flinched, turning, his own expression a mixture of suspicion and a raw defensive anger. "What's it to you?"
Nothing. Just an observation. I've been there myself, chasing a loss. It's a lonely place to be.
He gestured to the bar.
Let me buy you a drink. A real one. Not that swill they serve in there.
Marcus looked at him, his eyes narrowed, trying to figure out the angle. Nobody in a place like this did anything for free. "I don't need your charity."
It's not charity. Call it a business expense.
Ty lowered his voice, his gaze intense.
I couldn't help but notice. You're in a bit of a hole I might be able to help you with. The man I work for. He's always looking for investment opportunities, and he has a particular and very personal interest in the business of a man named Nathan Price.
The name was a key, unlocking a new kind of terror in Marcus's eyes. This was not a random act of kindness. This was something else, something dangerous. He started to back away, shaking his head. "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know any Nathan Price."
Don't you? Ty's voice was a soft, persuasive whisper. Ty, why? I saw the logo on your car keys when you put them on the table. Price Security. You're one of his men, and you're in a lot of trouble. Trouble that's about to get a whole lot worse when Sal sends his boys to collect.
Marcus was cornered, a frantic, terrified animal caught in a trap. He looked from Ty's cold, calm eyes to the backroom door where he knew Sal was watching. He was trapped between two different kinds of predators.
Let's take a walk. We can talk outside. I can offer you a way out of this. A permanent one.
He didn't wait for an answer. He simply turned and walked towards the back exit of the bar. For a long, agonizing moment, Marcus stood frozen, his mind a chaotic whirl of fear and desperation. And then, with a single terrified and life-altering decision, he followed. Ty had him on the hook. The alley behind the Flatlander was a narrow, grimy canyon between two brick walls. The only light came from a single, flickering fluorescent bulb above the steel back door, a light that seemed to attract moths and misery in equal measure. The air was cold and smelled of stale beer and overflowing dumpsters. It was a perfect and private place for a deal with the devil. Marcus Thorne stood with his back pressed against the cold, damp brick, his whole body trembling. He was a man who had just watched his entire world collapse, and now a stranger, a ghost from the poker table, was standing in front of him, offering him a hand from the rubble. He didn't know if the hand was offering salvation or a quicker, more efficient death. Ty stood a few feet away, his face obscured by the shadows cast by his baseball cap. His posture was relaxed, but his presence was a heavy, intimidating thing in the narrow alley. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" His voice was a reedy, terrified whisper.
I'm the man who's offering you a life raft. You, Marcus, are drowning.
He took a step closer, his voice a low, confidential murmur.
Your debt to Sal in there is a little over 20,000. Once his interest is factored in. But he's the least of your problems. Your debt to your bookie in Calgary is closer to 50. You've been betting on credit for 2 months, and your luck has run out. You're out of time. And these are not forgiving men.
The color drained from Marcus's face. The stranger didn't just know about tonight. He knew about everything. The quiet, desperate life of secrets he had been living had just been laid bare in a dark alley by a man he didn't know. How do you know that?
It's my business to know. Let's just say my employer has a vested interest in the weaknesses of Nathan Price's organization. And you, my friend, are currently his organization's biggest weakness.
He let the words sink in. He was not just a man in a hole. He was a liability to a very powerful and very dangerous employer.
I'm here to offer you a way out. A complete reset.
Marcus stared at him, a flicker of a desperate and foolish hope in his eyes.
We pay it all. Everything. We wire the money to your bookie tomorrow morning. We deliver the cash to Sal. We wipe your slate completely clean. You walk away from this, a free man, no more debt, no more looking over your shoulder.
The offer was too good to be true. It was a fantasy, a miracle, and Marcus Thorne had stopped believing in miracles a long time ago. Nobody does that for free. What's the catch? What do you want?
Information.
The word was quiet, simple, and infinitely heavy.
You stay at your job. You show up on time. You do everything you're told. You continue to be the loyal and unremarkable employee you are. But you keep your eyes and your ears open. You become our man on the inside.
He took another step closer, his voice dropping to an intense conspiratorial whisper.
Nathan Price has my family. 3 men. He's holding them in secret locations. I need to know where they are. I need patrol schedules, security access codes, transportation logs. I need to know everything you see, everything you hear. You will be my eyes and ears inside that fortress.
Marcus began to shake his head, a frantic, terrified motion. No, you're crazy. You have no idea who you're dealing with. If Price finds out, he will kill me. He will do things to me you can't even imagine before he kills me.
Maybe. He might. But Sal and his friends will definitely kill you. And they'll do it by the end of the week. And it won't be quick. And it won't be clean.
Ty's voice was not threatening. It was a simple, brutal statement of fact. He was presenting Marcus with a choice.
You have 2 options right now, Marcus. A certain and very painful death. Or a chance, a very small, very dangerous chance, to get your life back. I'm the only one offering you that chance. What's it going to be?
Marcus looked into Ty's shadowed face, trying to see the man who was offering him this impossible, terrifying lifeline. He saw no mercy in his eyes, only a cold, hard, and desperate resolve that was a mirror of his own. He was trapped. He was a man standing on a cliff with a forest fire at his back, and his only way out was to jump into the dark, raging river below. It was a choice between a certain end and a chance at a new beginning, a chance that was just as likely to kill him. He closed his eyes, a single silent tear of a profound self-loathing, tracing a path through the grime on his cheek. He had done this to himself. This was the price of his own weakness. Okay. The word was a barely audible, broken whisper. Okay, damn it, I'll do it. The first tiny crack in Nathan Price's impenetrable wall had just been formed, and it was built on the foundation of a terrified and broken man's despair. Marcus Thorne sagged against the brick wall, a puppet whose strings had just been cut. The quiet, desperate word, okay, hung in the cold, grimy air of the alley, a testament to his complete and utter surrender. He was no longer a man with a choice. He was a man who had just traded one master for another, hoping only that the new one was slightly more merciful. Ty did not offer him comfort. He did not offer him a hand. This was a transaction, not a friendship. He pulled a small, sleek burner phone from his jacket pocket, the one Val had provided for this very purpose.
This is your new phone. It's clean, encrypted, no calls ever, only texts. We will send you a number from a blocked ID. That will be us. It will be your only point of contact. Understand?
Marcus, looking numb, just nodded, his eyes wide with fear.
Tomorrow morning, a text will come with instructions for the first payment to your bookies. The rest will be handled when you have proven your value.
He held the phone out. Marcus took it, his hand trembling so badly he almost dropped it.
I need something now, Marcus. Before we go any further, a show of good faith, to prove you're serious.
Marcus looked at him, his expression one of pure, panicked terror. I don't know anything. I'm just a guard. I work the perimeter. They don't tell me anything important.
Everyone knows something. The other two prisoners, the men who were taken with my friend from the ranch, the older men, are they alive?
The question was a quiet, sharp-edged thing. Marcus swallowed hard, looking nervously up and down the empty alley, as if the shadows themselves had ears. Yes, they're alive. I saw them. 2, maybe 3 days ago. They were being moved.
Moved where? Another bunker?
Marcus shook his head, a look of genuine confusion and fear on his face. No, that's the thing. It was weird. The transport order was for a different shell corporation, a company called Northgate Biologicals. Price owns it. The transport team, they weren't our regular security guys. These men were different, colder. They wore black uniforms with no insignias. They looked more like medics or scientists than soldiers. The detail was a cold spike of a new and terrible kind of fear in Ty's own gut. This was not the simple, brutal logic of a thug like Saul. This was something else, something colder.
What kind of facility were they going to?
I don't know. I swear, I don't. The manifest just said it was a private research facility. It's not a prison, it's clinical. That's the only word I heard one of them use. Clinical. That's all I know. Please. He was pleading now, a man who had given up the only secret he had.
Okay, that's a start.
He gave Marcus his final instructions, his voice a low and unforgiving command.
Go back inside. Have a drink. Act normal. Go home. Go to work tomorrow. Do nothing out of the ordinary. Wait for our text. If you talk to anyone, if you try to run, if I even for a second think you are playing me, we will be the least of your problems. We'll be gone, but your debts will still be there, and Sal will find you.
He didn't wait for a reply. He simply turned and melted back into the deeper shadows at the end of the alley, leaving Marcus Thorne alone with his new phone, his new masters, and his new and infinitely more terrifying life. Ty made his way back to the truck. Shane was waiting, his face a mask of anxious tension. He saw Ty approaching, alone, and his shoulders sagged with relief. Did it work? Ty got into the truck, the door closing with a soft, final click.
Yeah, we've got him.
They drove back to the line shack in a heavy silence. Tim was waiting on the porch, his silhouette a grim, impatient sentinel. When they got inside, Ty relayed the new intelligence. He told them about Marcus and about the strange new destination. The initial, small victory of recruiting a man on the inside was quickly overshadowed by the chilling implications of what they had learned. A clinical facility. A bio-research company. The words conjured images far more terrifying than a simple prison bunker. The three of them stood around the table, their gazes once again on the map of the valley. But they were no longer looking for a military installation. They were looking for something else, something hidden, something secret, something far more sinister. The first crack in Nathan Price's wall had been made, but the darkness they could now see seeping through it was deeper and colder than they could have ever imagined.